Hello and welcome into Double A Baseball. Adam Oppenheim with Alex Hynes here on Sunday, October 12th. Well, the divisional series are all over and we're on to the championship series, Alex. But first, let's talk about some of the really exciting divisional baseball. Let's start with what ended last night. Cubs-Brewers game 5. Brewers take game 5.
And I feel like I owe the Brewers an apology here after this whole season. I kind of have doubted them throughout the regular season, despite them having the best record at baseball. I doubted them coming into this series just because I wasn't sure if the way they play was going to fit the playoffs. They proved me completely wrong. Yes, they ended up blowing a 2-0 series lead to go to a deciding game 5. I don't care about that. They played a great series overall. The difference in those games at Wrigley, one was a one-run game. They still played well overall, and all of this was with Jackson Chourio seemingly playing on like one and a half legs. He didn't seem to be 100%. We'll talk maybe about that when we talk about the championship series. But I mean, this Brewers team, I think. I ought to apologize because I think I doubted them heavily coming in. They hit the homers that we were looking for to try and see if they could do what you need to do in October. You got to hit for power against good pitching, and your pitching has to be good, and their pitching was great. So again, I think that this team is proven now, especially after last year when they had a good year. They lost at home to the Mets. They haven't made the championship series since 2018. I think now they've finally taken that extra step forward to where you can now say, okay, I trust in this Brewers team now, even if the personnel is not what you would expect from a team to get this far. That doesn't matter. It's the performances themselves that do.
And I think in baseball, I know we focused on wild card teams making crazy runs and just getting into the postseason, but the regular season does matter. The Brewers showed they were elite in multiple categories that weren't stuff like home runs or OPS. But then when they have all those hitters who have great contact and you turn in a game 5 performance that was the runs were scored by 3 solo home runs, it becomes all the more impressive. And the pitching staff, they did enough. You are worried going on, depending on the injury situation with Brandon Woodruff, if he's going to be okay, because you saw Quinn Priester, I think it was game 3, was not very good.
Yeah.
But this Brewers team, I mean, they're just have a bunch of pieces together that not a lot of people have heard of coming into this year, and they've been able to deliver in a big way. I think it's headlined by Jackson Chourio. William Contreras has a giant hand in that. And, the Milwaukee fans, they can feel it that this team is good. I mean, Milwaukee's made the playoffs in the past, but everyone's kind of expected them to flop.
And that environment I think was different even than say last year. Now, granted, again, it's the wild card series. It's a three-game set. It has a different vibe to it
Right.
certainly, but that felt like a home environment that actually will give you that edge. The same way that Wrigley certainly gave the Cubs an edge in the
Oh,
wild card
no
series
doubt.
and certainly gave them an edge in their two games that they won. So I think now you're kind of feeling where, the stadium formerly known as Miller Park, and I will call it as such, is actually a good home field advantage for them, and they'll certainly play. I do think at some there to some extent we've kind of overstated the sort of lesser names in the lineup, especially for this Brewers team. And I think that's been kind of the large narrative.
It has
But
been. Yeah.
I think when you look at it though, William Contreras had a pair of homers. Jackson Chourio had a homer. He had a great series overall. Obviously, Christian Yelich in there, and even you look at a couple of other guys. There's still names that really probably should be known as opposed to just these are no names getting it done. I think there's a difference there. I mean, Bryce Terang had an amazing year last year.
Right.
And not only has he been one of the best defensive second basemen alongside the counterpart in the series, Nico Horner, he had about probably the best August of offense that you could see in baseball. I mean, he was putting up crazy numbers at the plate. And so I think there are these other guys, they've got young players as well that they're just trying to break out. And so I think at some extent we've kind of overstated. Yes, this is still maybe the plucky little Brewers, coming out of nowhere, small market team and whatnot. But it's not like we're talking about, you know, a Colorado Rockies lineup of, guys
Yeah,
that got DFA'd from, eight different teams. Even Andrew Vaughn, who they got because he was
that
DFA'd,
I was gonna
was
mention him.
still
Yeah.
a guy who had some good moments in Chicago with the Sox and needed a change of scenery. And I think the talent was still there, for example. And Vaughn had a great series. He had another homer too.
And you also got to respect how Pat Murphy just put together
Oh,
some
yeah.
of these bullpen games. It was pretty incredible. Jacob Mizorowski going four scoreless yesterday. I mean, I think that won the Brewers the game. I mean, I know they scored 3 runs, but at the same time, they had Mizorowski just roll through the lineup a couple of times, which is big in a playoff game where, they didn't want to pitch. Like, you have a bunch of pitchers listed on your roster. You probably don't want to pitch like two or three of them usually ever. I mean, all teams have that. And for Jacob Mizorowski to do that, you're saying just in case that game goes deep, the Brewers were going to have the advantage in terms of the bullpen.
Yeah. Their bullpen is really nice. And that's the thing. I'll probably talk about the concerns I have with them essentially only having one starter, at least if they use the starters the way they want to in the championship series. Because again, Priester, he'll probably still start, and I'd expect him to be better than he was at Wrigley. Quintana came out of the pen in the end. They used an opener with McGill in the final game, understandably. I mean, winner take all. There's no reason not to. Um, but the way that they work that bullpen, they've got a lot of pieces that can go multiple innings, and they have another bullpen that is full of guys that throw gas, have nasty pitches. Abner Uribe is one of them. He's turned into sort of a secondary closer to go along with Trevor McGill, who then started Game 3. Nick Mears is the guy who threw hard. He went in inning and two-thirds scoreless. Aaron Ashby didn't necessarily have the greatest run of things, but he's another hard thrower from the left side. Jared Koenig's another one that, proved to be a troublemaker for the Cubs. Again, lefties have been a bit of a struggle for them at times. So this is a team that is full of really good pitching talent, in the same way that we've seen baseball in general, and especially now in the postseason, get to a point where outside of the top arms, guys aren't going deep into games, and those guys that maybe you haven't heard of that throw, absolute gas, they make the difference, and we've seen teams live off of that
I
to
mean,
make deep postseason runs.
yeah, the team they're facing, the Dodgers. I mean, talk about who they have coming out of the bullpen. So yeah, that makes your bullpen look a lot better. I guess we have time to maybe talk like a minute about the Cubs, and we can definitely talk about them more in the offseason. But
Oh
this
yeah.
really comes down to not scoring runs. Kyle Tucker's got to be at the center of that because, I mean, Seiya Suzuki had a terrific series. Michael Bush had a terrific series. Do you disagree?
I don't necessarily think Tucker was the problem in this series, to be
Well,
honest. I mean, four for 16, he still got on base. He walked more than he struck out. People will point at that one fastball down the middle in Game 5, but I don't. Obviously, you want your stars to do better, but we've seen in baseball, period, small sample size. It's kind of hard to pin everything on your stars when you're talking about 16 at bats here in a game or in a one series. Um, the bats definitely were the problem. I'm not gonna argue with you on that. I
well, do
just
you
think
think he
that
was
that
still
Tucker.
injured? And because
I mean, I'm not going to say he wasn't. I think whether he was injured or like fully injured or not, I don't know. But I think injury played a part in his late season
yeah,
decline, and that
right.
definitely didn't help him be 100% ready, um, even if healthy. If you kind of get what I'm trying to say.
No, no, I totally agree. I think that plays a part in it. But yeah, I mean, the one at bat in Game 5, that's the one you're looking at. Yeah, I mean, he had the homer in Game 4 as well. But let's move on to an AL series. Blue Jays, Yankees. I believe we both picked the Blue Jays. Maybe. I
We
think so.
did, we
Um,
did. Which honestly, I'm a bit surprised that we both did, and we both actually hit on this prediction.
yeah. So this was one where I was like, the regular season is going to carry over to the playoffs. I thought people, they were hating on the Blue Jays too much, and I'll give the Yankees credit, but
I did it.
this Blue Jays team is the opposite of the Boston Red Sox. And the Boston Red Sox hung in there for 2 games, and they don't put the ball in play and they strike out a lot. What do the Blue Jays do? Put the ball in play, they still hit for power, and they do not strike out. And that was clear when the Yankees starting pitchers were on the mound. They got absolutely rocked. You're talking about the advantage the Blue Jays had in the series, or the Yankees did, and it was starting pitching. And all three, or two of them, or the first three, I should say, got destroyed.
Yeah, I mean, they the ability of this Jays team also to just handle velocity, I think too. I know Max Fried is not a guy who throws terribly hard. Rodon is up
Schlitter is
there, but not right where he could be or he was in years past. But yeah, Schlitter throws hard. Their bullpen throws hard, and they were still able to just pack things on. And I think the one thing about this Jays team was this was the only series that we saw that consistently had a team continue to pile on the offense. We've seen teams get big leads. The Brewers did that against the Cubs. There was one game where the runs, or a couple games where the runs came in bunches in LA. But otherwise, the Jays were the only team that got a big lead and then continued to add on. And you just felt like this team once they started scoring was never going to stop. And I mean, when you in a playoff series score 23 runs in the first 2 games, both at home, Toronto in the playoffs, it's been a long time coming to see that place rocking again like it was, say, in 2015, 2016. That really carries into things. And in New York, even, they still put up some good runs winning one of those two to clinch. So I think the offense was maybe something that coming into the year we had a bit more concerns with just because they didn't necessarily have some of the same pop that they had in years past. But this series, I think, just showed that they are able to take on top quality pitching because Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, and the way that Schlitter was throwing in that wild card series, I mean, that's about as good of a three-man rotation as you're going to face. They'll face just as good probably in Seattle. If they make the World Series, they probably would as well. But the ability to do that is how you win in October.
It was impressive. I think a lot of people sometimes lean towards the wild card team because they're like, oh, the divisional team has been off a while. And then you see in game one,
Hmm.
they scored 10 runs. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I mean, what, it take 2 minutes to mention his name? I mean, that's ridiculous on
Yeah,
us. I mean, that
yeah, he's made for that.
unbelievable. I mean, the thing is, they would pitch inside to him and he'd hammer it for a home run. The bat flipping game two on the Grand Slam. One of the most electric moments in Blue Jays history. Um, yeah, I mean the Bautista home run
I mean
is
that
obviously
that's
cool.
this is the modern
Yeah,
one though. I
yeah,
mean, you talk about a
so,
divisional opponent in this too. It's not quite, in the ALCS or anything, but it is the big moment against a division rival, the team
yeah,
that was in the World Series last year. This is your kind of crowning, hey, we are here for real moment.
yeah. And even if you pitch him on the outside, it's like, oh, he's just gonna take it the other way. And I mean, if this is a lineup that gets Bo Bichette back, I mean, it's gonna
Right.
be really hard to pick against how the Blue Jays played. And honestly, they gave Game Three of the Yankees. I mean, Aaron Judge with one of the best swings I've ever seen.
That
But
was
I mean,
insane.
they opened up that opportunity with an air, which they usually don't do. The games they played defensively, they won. And on the flip side, the Yankees booting the double play ball in game four by Jazz Chisholm. Just a microcosm of how the Yankees were defensively this season. They were not trustworthy and they would lose games off of bad defense. I don't think we've seen a postseason that has been more clear that defense loses you baseball games than this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Especially on the American League side, but back-to-back series, the Yankees winning because of it, losing because of it. I think for the Yankees too, it's like the whole, tired argument is about Aaron Judge in the playoffs. Aaron Judge was about the only guy that actually hit the ball in the series for the Yankees. And so, we talked about how dangerous that lineup was. Aaron Judge, I mean, he did his part, certainly. And the Jays handled him in a couple big situations. There was that bases loaded jam in game one. But
Oh, yeah.
otherwise, can't really fault him. You look at the other guys. I mean, they had Jazz Chisholm. He didn't really do much. You bring in him, Bellinger in the last couple years. They don't really do anything, and I'm just a bit
Stanton.
surprised they didn't. Yeah, Stanton too. I'm surprised they didn't use the bench just a little bit more. I mean, you barely saw anything out of Jose Caballero, who they traded for. I know it's not a big name, but you only get four ABs of Paul Goldschmidt. I think there maybe is some area where you say, hey, I mean, yes, we want to say keep in a guy like Trent Grisham defensively, but I mean, Anthony Volpe was 1 for 15. You're having a lot of guys that just aren't giving you much offensively, and well, the Jays, I want to give them credit for their pitching because they did very well. This isn't the hardest pitching staff the Yankees would have to face in the playoffs. It's a good pitching staff. It's not the best, and so. Well, again, just like the Cubs, we'll talk about the Yankees in the offseason, I'm sure, but there's going to be a little bit of looking internally about just how they were able to come through it at home against the Red Sox just to, put up a rather unceremonious exit.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say the turning point, but the game that really the Yankees needed to win was game two. Trey Savage versus Max Fried, and Savage shoves. His splitter
Yeah,
was fantastic. His fastball he went, I think, five and a third no hit innings, and
11
that sets
Ks.
up. What'd you say?
11 Ks.
11 Ks. Yeah, it was just
Yeah.
spectacular. And you're talking about the Blue Jays bullpen. You don't want them to have a lot of innings. Well, they did that up until they needed to have a bullpen game in game four, and then they were terrific. The Yankees bullpen was also pretty good. I know Will Warren didn't pitch great, but I mean, they put him in a bad spot. The rest of the bullpen pieces, I thought, looked pretty solid. So, with that being said, it's time to move on to the Dodgers and the Phillies. This was a wild one, and really just an
Defense,
unfortunate ending.
defense, defense, right? We were just talking about that.
Yeah, yeah. See, I'm just gonna credit that with more of a mental error than an actual
Yeah.
physical
No,
error.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if I've ever felt worse for a player than Ryan Kerkering. I mean, man, they scored one run the entire game. They lost both
Yeah.
games at home. Their one through four hitters were just terrible for the Phillies, I should say.
Right.
Um, through the
They had
first
a
two
couple
games.
chances late in the regulation nine to get ahead.
Yeah, they did. You got to give credit
So
to the Dodgers, though. I mean, it's not like people wrote this team off, but people were like, yeah, the regular season would translate. Maybe it was more me trying to build up a storyline, you know. But Blake Snell has been really good. I mean, he's been their number one pitcher. You're still gonna have Otani and Yamamoto. But then you have Glass now coming out of the pen. You have Roki Sasaki coming out of the pen, and you have a lineup that you are confident that they can hit the ball. Because Otani hasn't even done well in the postseason, and they're still putting up runs.
at the plate specifically.
Right.
Um,
Yes.
but yes, and I think that's the thing. Like the Dodgers didn't hit very well at all. They hit under 200 for the series. Their on base was 280. Now, again, a lot of that should be credit to the pitching staff of Philly. I mean, their bullpen was pretty solid. They did give up a lot more runs out of their bullpen than their starting rotation, but you did get great starting outings out of Jesus Luzardo, who then came out of the pen in the final game. Christopher Sanchez was Christopher Sanchez as
Twice.
he's
Yeah.
been all year long. Aaron Nola, I mean, he was basically an opener.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the reason why the Dodgers struggled is not necessarily because they played badly, but because this was a series in which, as we said coming in, it's probably the best matchup in terms of two starting pitching staffs, two full staffs that can give you a lot of length of top quality pitching. And we saw that. And the bullpens were a bit of the difference. And even though Philly actually had probably the better offense in the series, they just weren't able to get enough done down the stretch. And obviously, Game Four, I think, was emblematic of that. If you can't score more than one run in an elimination game, you're not going to do very well.
Yeah, that was tough to watch. I mean, they certainly had opportunities, and I mean, the Dodgers had, I think, like one opportunity once Sanchez came out of the game one, and Teoscar Hernandez hit a home run to the opposite field, and you're like, wow, this Dodgers team. I mean, they definitely have a shot in this series. There's no doubt. And then you factor in Will Smith back into the lineup, into the starting lineup, I should say. He played off the bench in at least one of those games.
Yeah, and they only had two homers in the whole series, the Dodgers. I mean, that you had the one from Teoscar, who's done that a lot recently. Tommy Edman had the other. Otherwise, I mean, there really wasn't, a ton, but they were able just to bunch together runs. They had a couple of big innings. I mean, they had the 4-run inning in Philly that ended up being the only runs they scored in game two. And then, you know, in that game four, you're obviously able to get one run right back after the Phillies take a 1-0 lead and kind of neutralize a little bit out of what the Phillies were doing. So, I mean, it wasn't quite the 5-game thriller we'd hoped for, and it didn't necessarily have the most. It had an interesting end, but not quite the interesting end we were hoping for. But it was, I think, a series in which, man, if that was a 5-game set, and also if you're talking about a healthy Zach Wheeler, you know, we're talking about a classic. But instead, the Dodgers gritting out a series was something we really haven't had to see at times. They've either been very good or then they've lost.
I mean, the Phillies still pitched extremely well. So at that point, if you're
Yeah,
not going to score, I mean, how much does Wheeler actually help when Turner,
that's true.
Schwarber, and Harper
Yeah, exactly.
didn't show up for most of the series, which is unfortunate. I mean, Schwarber hit the home run, Turner had a couple of knocks. But still, I mean, those are the big bats in your lineup because you're looking through the rest of this lineup. I mean, there's good players, but I mean, are you expecting maybe Harrison Bader, playoff star, to do something? But JT Realmuto, just I mean, he's terrific always. But I mean, the free agents for the Phillies, that's going to be something to watch as we're going to talk about more in the offseason.
Yeah, and again, this is a team that for years now, the offense has never been our concern. I mean, we it's been Harper, it's been Schwarber, it's been Real Muto, it's been Turner, and then you've got these supporting cast guys like Nick Castellanos who will have a couple big moments. They've gotten moments from, I mean, Reese
Bryson
Hoskins obviously
Stott.
not there anymore, but yeah, Bryson Stott. They've had the supporting cast in years past, and they still have many of them this year. To where this is just, it really doesn't feel like it should be a personnel issue. Um, and the fact that they made the World Series in 22, otherwise it just feels like there's more in there.
Right. I mean, it feels like if you're a top three favorite every year, and you continue to lose, the pressure starts to mount. And
Yeah.
now it's reaching near the apex when you don't know what's going to happen with some of your best players. But I mean, that being said, that's kind of just baseball. You can be, the best team in the regular season, the favorite to win, and they ran
That's
into
the
the
difficulty of
Dodgers.
a 5-game set.
Yeah, the Dodgers in the divisional series. You don't have that much room for error. If you lose the first two games, especially at home, you can't lose another game, and you're playing at Dodger Stadium. A pair of those next three possible games. But I would say the best game by far of the playoffs was Tigers Mariners. Game five that went 15 innings.
The second, and given that the game one also went to extras, and the Mariners had a chance to win that one, they lose. They win a 1-run game in game two. It kind of, was comfortable for the winning teams in three and four in Detroit. And then game five, I mean, we saw 5 starting pitchers get into the game.
Fun.
It was,
That's
we
fun.
talked about how great the pitching was going to be in this series. I mean,
The hitting was
I'm
also
not even going
bad.
to mention a single hitting stat. The stats are all screwed up because you had guys going 0 for 6 because they're having to go from facing George Kirby to Logan Gilbert to Luis Castillo at some point in the same game. Like, I mean, that's unfair.
Yeah. Throw in some Andres Munoz and
Yeah.
Matt Brash, two of the best relievers in the AL. Yeah, no. I mean, Jorge Polanco had the clutch hit, but man, I mean, both these teams had a ridiculous amount of chances. The Mariners
Oh
grounding
yeah.
into multiple double plays. AJ Przinsky wanting everyone to bunt the entire game, which I don't disagree with, but gotta lay a bunt down here.
Well, Adam Wainwright is still certain that there's going to be a fastball coming.
Yeah, yeah, where I was guessing every pitch. Oh man, that was a great career. Adam Amin. That was a
He's
special.
good.
That
He's
was a
very
special
good.
call. I'm glad people get to, see him on the national stage. I listened to him for Bulls games, and
It's not
during the
quite an
couch.
oh my goodness Valentine, but
Yeah,
it's
couch
good.
football. Yeah, people just realize that now. I was like, dang, I guess I'm too much in the sports world to realize. I was thinking that was obvious. Oh my goodness, Valentine. But yeah. Oh my
We need
goodness,
him for that
Polanco.
Orion Kerkering throw home.
Yes, for sure. I mean, this game really just came down to hitting, and the Tigers outside of Kerry Carpenter, who was amazing. I mean, talking about his stats off George Kirby, at least he didn't hit
And
a
then they
homer
take
off him.
out Kirby
Yeah,
and bring in a lefty. He's bad against lefties,
and then he
and he
hits a
still
home.
hits a homer in Game
Yeah,
Five.
a
That
left
is,
on left homer. I mean,
whew,
just Kerry Carpenter was that
there
was
were
a
tanks too.
that was a special series by him. Unfortunately, 2 through 8 in the lineup, he didn't get any help. I mean, they had Cole Keith hitting like fifth, I think. I think he had like one hit in the entire playoffs. Gleyber Torres wasn't very good. Riley Green was just terrible. He put together some bad at bats. Torkelson, not good. I mean, the rest of the players you're not expecting a ton out of. So I'll just point to, those three in the middle of the order. But I mean, they lost both the school games.
And through no fault of his,
Yeah,
as
I mean,
always. I
um,
mean, 22 strikeouts in 13 innings. Is that good?
yeah, that was that was fun to watch. I couldn't believe they took him out still at 99 pitches. I get it.
Yeah,
Just because of the motion of the last pitch to Raleigh being 101 fastball down the middle by him. But yeah, um, nuts.
yeah. And I mean, the pitching was so good. I mean, because even like we could talk about the Mariners because that pitching staff was phenomenal, and it's expected to be against Toronto. But even the Tigers pitching staff. I mean, how about how about we talk a little bit about Troy Melton? I mean, the rookie comes
Yeah.
out there throwing gas, starts game one, comes out of the pen later on in the series. He allowed just one earned run in 8 innings. He was phenomenal, and that Cater Montero was another guy, and then Will Vest had a couple really good innings, charged innings, coming in the eighth and ninth innings. I mean, the pitching staff was great, and it's another case of the offense just not doing really a thing, and that's been our concern about the Tigers last year, this year, and how are you going to get runs for Schoolboy? How are you going to get runs for everybody else? And you know. It's going to be hard to do it when you face this Seattle pitching staff if you're not at your best.
Yeah, no doubt the Tigers were not at their best. Sorry if my camera was cutting out a little bit, or if you cut some of the audio there. But let's move on to the championship series preview because we have about 3 to 4 minutes to talk on each. Mariners Blue Jays.
Well, I mean the pitching, the pitching, the pitching, the pitching. I mean, just looking even back at the series for the Mariners just one more time. I mean, you're talking about having Matt Brash and Andres Munoz out of the pen, along with Bazardo didn't have a great series, but Bazardo's another heavily used arm. Spire's another that is their primary lefty. And I mean, you're going to have Kirby, you're going to have Gilbert. The hope is that you have Brian Wu back. And if they have Brian Wu back, that may just be, an all it takes for me to say that's going to be enough for them because don't get me wrong, I love this Jays team. And that's the first time you've probably heard me say this on this show in 4 years. Um, but that pitching staff is made for October. We've said it. They've needed the offense to get them there, and they haven't. And now that they have, with the guys they have at the top of the lineup, you don't need to get a ton of runs for Wu if healthy, for Gilbert, for Kirby, um, to really, I mean, essentially just coast. And the fact that Bryce Miller is probably your fourth starter. I mean, he's starting a game two on some other teams right now. So I just love what the Mariners can do. And they're can we just talk about what the atmosphere is going to be like in Seattle? I mean, come on. They've been starved.
Yeah, it's been cool. It's been really cool to see. I think I picked the Mariners over the Blue Jays in my original prediction, but honestly, that series against the Blue Jays could not be any more convincing than it was. A team that can just hammer the ball,
Right.
that might get Bo Bichette back. I'm worried if the Blue Jays put up 4 runs, I know the Blue Jays pitching staff isn't as good as the Tigers and they don't have Tarek Skubal, but can the Mariners put up a 5 or 6 run game to answer? I'm really not sure. Uh, the top of the lineup's good, hasn't been great during the playoffs, or really just their one series against the Tigers. But I think the Blue Jays, they're coming in with more momentum than anyone. They get some rest for their arms. Their bullpen's feeling good. I mean, they had a couple bullpen pieces that were a little bit shaky. Jeff Hoffman, you're still not sure about. But I mean, the rest of those guys, I mean, how much confidence is that, Bill, going into Yankee Stadium? Bullpen game, everyone says is going back to Toronto for game five. And you piece together John Schneider, multiple different pitchers in that effort where the Yankees weren't even close to crawling back in that game.
Yeah, and I think the bullpens for both of these teams are going to be really important, and I think it's going to be more so important for the Jays because they're not as deep in their rotation between in terms of numbers and in terms of guys that can get you deep into a game. I mean,
They
Kevin
need
Gausman will get you decent
Savage
innings,
needs to
but
be good again.
right, and he's going to need to give you that same kind of five and two-thirds innings in order to feel comfortable. Just because of the sheer number of innings you're going to need to cover in a seven-game series now.
Right. Right.
Um, the I think the big question for me is, and it's on paper, I think you kind of expect it would be more for Seattle, but Alejandro Kirk, Ernie Clement, Nathan Lucas, those guys versus Randy Rosarena, Eugenio Suarez, Josh Naylor, Jorge Polanco, the guys that are not Vladdy and Cal Raleigh that are at the top of the lineup. Who
Yeah.
performs more because of that, I think, is really the biggest difference between these teams.
Yeah. Two fun atmospheres. Let's slide over to the NL side. Brewers, Dodgers. Uh, I'll go first. I respect what the Brewers have done, but this is going to be an incredibly challenging uphill series for them. I mean, the Cubs are a really solid team. There's no doubt about that. But the Dodgers just have the ability to score runs. And I think for the Cubs, they really did, and especially in the first two games. This Dodgers team and the pitching staff is what has impressed me the most about this team so far.
And the fact that like now, Roki Sasaki out of the pen, he
Yeah,
has looked like the guy he was advertised to be. Now, hopefully, he's a starter by next year. But for a playoff push
for
like
now.
this, you've
Yeah.
got him in the pen, and you've got Otani um, as a really true starter that can go deep into games like advertised. I mean, that's not something how you exactly piece things together in July when Otani was just about to come back and when Sasaki was hurt and not performing where he should be. Now you're at a point where that's where their pitching staff is. A lot of things didn't look great, but a lot of the earned runs they gave up out of their pen was Clayton Kershaw, who, I mean, is going to ride gracefully off into the sunset in this playoffs, and I don't expect that he's going to get heavy major innings in the championship series. So there really isn't a major hole on the pitching side for the Dodgers, and it's going to be a bigger challenge than the guys they had to face in Chicago, who again the Cubs forced them into 5 games. The Cubs didn't play great, but even with how good the Brewers played, they need another year because I don't think the way they played against the Cubs is
No,
going to be enough.
I agree. And whether we see that or not, I think could make the series go 6 or 7 games. Otherwise, I wouldn't be surprised if this ends in like 5 games. Uh, just,
It's going to come down to health at Churio, I think, and whether or
yeah,
not Priester, Quintana, whoever's game two and game three starter, can they get you innings?
I
Because
think
you can't
they.
bullpen a 5 game series or 7 game series the way you can with the five.
I don't know if they can go back to Priester, especially starting him
I
on the
think they
road
have
again.
to, though, is the problem.
Well, they can out of the bullpen, but Quintana was pretty solid, I would say. But I mean, you never really know because it's only one playoff start. But you're seeing how important it is for starting pitchers to get deep into ball games, and that's only magnified in a best of seven series where you're not going all out for one game like teams are in the wild card series and even in the divisional series a little bit. So that will be interesting how it plays out. So yeah, I think the Dodgers are going to be really tough to beat. I think they're the heavy favorites right now. But If the Brewers can pull off upset, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked, but that would be one of the craziest upsets I would say in the past decade if they win
Yeah.
that series. Well, that's gonna wrap it up here on Double A Baseball. Alex, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to maybe just finish out by saying, I mean, we've got the Jays, the Mariners, and the Brewers
Yeah,
in the championship
who would have thought?
series. I mean, and that is both good for baseball. That is a lot of fun, because they still have plenty of talent on those rosters. These are not nobodies. And you
Slightly
know,
above average guys.
it's just fun to finally see, a lot of this. I mean, again, I'm a Cubs fan. I don't like the Brewers, but they're making the championship series, for the first time since 2018. They're trying to reach the World Series for the first time since the 80s. The Mariners haven't made the World Series ever. The Jays have been starved since the 90s. And then the plucky underdog Dodgers.
Yeah, no, I mean it's big time underdog, Los Angeles Dodgers, first in payroll, deferred money, merchants. But hey, guess it's Dodgers versus everyone. That's what you're saying right there.
That's what
But
they're saying, right? Yeah.
yeah, cool to see the payroll. This has been a big topic of discussion, and really it's just the Dodgers. The other three are not close to the top. So yeah, that's a cool last comment there from you, Alex. So that will now wrap it up here on Double A Baseball. We'll be back maybe in the middle of these championship series, but also possibly previewing the World Series. That for sure we're gonna do a show on. So for my partner, Alex Hynes, I'm Adam Oppenheim. We'll see you next time on Double A Baseball.